Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Before we do, we would like to just share, before we start answering your questions, we would just like to share with you some of the ground rules we will have for today. So if our video engineer could please share the screen. Thank you. So this event will last for an hour and a half. We're going to be ending at 3:30. It is being recorded. So if you've missed it, or if you know someone who's missed it, you can absolutely go back and watch. It'll be posted on our website. We are going to be trying to not ask duplicate questions in respect of everyone's time and trying to get as many questions as possible. If you are asking a question, you must include, please, your first and last name and only your question. Please make sure that they do not include personal or private information. The whole purpose of this is to go through general protocols. If you have any personal questions, we are asking you to please direct them to either your teacher or to your school principal or administrator. So I think we will begin. We have already some questions. First question comes from Coach Renna. And he says, first question of many, in regards to the added $400,000 that needs to be spent, where exactly is that money coming from? Because it was stated it would come from athletic salaries.
Okay, so before we answer that question from Coach Renna, I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. Very much appreciate you taking the time. My assumption is many of you probably watched the board meeting last night, which we certainly appreciate. And we anticipate a lot of questions this afternoon and certainly this evening. So I want to thank my fellow colleagues, administrators for joining us this afternoon and who will be joining me this evening as well. Their perspectives regarding all the things that have taken place over the summer and that will take place beginning the first day of school, I think are very much needed because they are boots on the ground as far as what's happening. And so my hope is, and I think we will be very successful in answering all the questions that you have. So back to Coach Renna, I know we have Ms. Callahan here. And again, just to clarify, I'm thinking well, I'll just leave it at that. The $400,000 that we spoke about last night. Ms. Callahan, if you wouldn't mind answering that question, please.
Certainly, Dr. Hines. As you know, the district adopts a budget. It's passed by the community. Within that budget is money for a variety of district needs, including athletics. At this point in time, because COVID expenses were unanticipated beyond the $500,000 budgeted by the board, we need to look at our existing budget first and foremost and see where we may be able to absorb the shock of those additional needs. Since athletics, at least according to the county, have been postponed until January. That is one area that the board was able to look at. Based on their policy, they make those transfers. And if we come to January and we need money in athletics, we will then look to other areas of the budget that have been underexpended at that time.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Callahan. Okay, we'll go to
Thank you.
the next question.
Next question from Josh Lichtenstein. And I apologize to everyone in advance if I mispronounced your name. What is the plan for transitioning the full remote students from their initial classroom assignments to a dedicated model once that model is finalized? Parents may reevaluate in person the first month.
Okay. Thank you for that question. It's a very important question, and I could tell because of the number of emails I know I've received, and I'm thinking the board has received as well. So let me start to answer this question, and then I will defer to other administrators who'd like to add, whether it's Dr. Mioli or maybe Ms. Mattina or other elementary principals. Here's the reality, and I said this last night. and I've said it before, what we currently have in place, we are looking to have evolve over time. It is critically important that we at least have something right now come next week, but we have a committee that's dedicated at all three levels, at the elementary, the middle, and the high school levels, to make it better as far as what we currently have in place, and we will continue to do so. And in fairness, it would be not appropriate, I would think, to have parents have to make a decision about something that they may not fully understand yet. So the way we're looking at our deadlines right now is, you know, we have this rollout all through September. Our hope is with our committee work that we will have something that's enhanced in some way, and then the parents would then make a determination whether they would like their child to stay in that particular program. One thing that we're looking to do when that does take place is to put a deadline as far as when a when a child can move in and out of a program. And that's something that's very similar amongst school districts. So right now, what we are looking at is the first marking period to make that commitment. So the process is a lot of the committee work is incredibly important. Our first meeting for elementary is next Tuesday, the first day of school. So we are looking to right out of the gate to continue to engage in these conversations. And believe me, and I mean this as both an educator and a parent, I understand where you're coming from, where the parents are coming from, and we will continue to work very hard to enhance what we have. But I also want to be very clear, is that we have constraints as well. When we talk about the financials, now I'm assuming some of the questions we will receive will be about, can we add this? Can we change that? And, you know, with COVID related costs, as far as what we have, we budgeted for a decent amount, but we have to be very mindful, and we're only in the beginning of September. So we have to be very mindful as we continue to move forward as well. So can we do more with what we currently have as we assess the model we have in place? I don't know if we have any other administrators who'd like to add on or to tag along with what I said.
Can I just interrupt by just adding one more question that is kind of related to this? And the question was, if you choose to start in person in the hybrid model, are you able to switch to the virtual model at the end of September when elementary school goes all in? So I think the overall question is, if we're starting, can we transition? And
I think it's fair for the month of September to have that whole month really as a transition period. So I think in order to be consistent and, more important, fair, that is something, yes, that would happen. However, once we solidify what it will look like post September is when we ask whatever commitment is made that it stays that way until the end of the first marking period.
I'd like to add something to that, if I may. I said it last night, but in case you weren't watching until 11:30, it's important for everybody to keep in mind that just as if this were a normal school year, every student would be assigned to a classroom at the elementary level or assigned to a team or a group of classrooms at the secondary level. They have also been assigned to digital classrooms. So they're all in a Google Classroom, every student, whether they are remote or in a hybrid. And so there will be interaction through that classroom. There will be, schedules posted, materials, interactions with the teachers. And that will make any kind of transition that we make, it will help out with the transition because of that, there will have been community already built through the Google Classroom. And for example, in that question that was just asked, after the phase-in at the elementary school, if a parent decides they want their student to be all in, they'll go right in and sit in the classroom with the rest of the colleagues, from being virtual to being in.
So since we're just actually talking about virtual, there's a question again, same parent actually is asking, what time must the virtual decisions be submitted by tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is the day that we've asked online for, so do we have a cutoff time?
4 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on. Different subject. Jenny Gammons asks, Good afternoon. Will parents be notified if their child's classroom does not have a HEPA filter when they begin school?
So yeah, it's a really great question. I'm going to tell you, we are doing everything to ensure that every classroom will have a HEPA filter before school begins. So, and again, that is, I just met with Mr. Restano and his incredible team this morning. They have a game plan when they arrive, and the goal is to have them all installed in the classroom spaces before our students arrive on Tuesday. So I know, to answer the question, will the parents be notified? You know, I think it's a reasonable request. I can talk to our administrators to see how we can figure that out. I will certainly know before school starts if a classroom doesn't have it. But I'm going to tell you right now, I feel very confident that all the classrooms will have one before we begin.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, we did say last night that we expected full shipment of all our HEPA filters to be
Correct.
delivered tomorrow, Friday, right? We're on Friday now? Okay.
Yeah.
So, which would mean that by Tuesday, theoretically, they should all be ready to be
Absolutely.
kind of plugged in. Okay.
Yep.
So just wanted, okay. So next question. Hold on. So Marita Spinato says, when will we be assigned our staggered drop-off pickup time? I guess that is an elementary school question, and I would imagine one of the elementary school teachers or Dr. Meoli would answer. Principal, sorry.
Yeah, or one of our
I'm
principals.
sorry, are you speaking about bus transportation? Well, let me speak for bus transportation. Emails are going out to all parents today, which will have bus passes attached, and which will also remind parents of the extra precautions children should be taking and parents should be taking before children leave the house, having their temperature taken, that they will be wearing a mask when they enter the bus, that they will be walking to the back of the bus to the furthest seat. There will also be a video attached to the bus pass email that will show children exactly how they should get onto and off of the school buses to be the safest possible. So those emails should be received by this evening.
Does anybody else want to say anything else?
I could speak of the elementary schools, because we had told this to our parents. Each of the 5 elementary schools have to handle it differently, and we're getting that information out as soon as we can. We are expecting heightened levels of drop-offs and pickups this year, even though the busing is available. So my information went out yesterday. I think at Daily School that did go out yesterday, and I believe everybody is getting their information certainly out by tomorrow. But that is correct. We're having staggered arrivals and dismissals to just keep socially distanced while children are coming in and out of school.
Thank you. And actually, since we're talking about transportation, Karen Ben Alta is asking, how many kids per bus? Is it to and from school, or do we need to select only one way as discussed before? Mary, if you could take that.
We still intend to have a maximum of 22 on a bus that normally holds 66 children. The only exception to that might be if you have siblings and have 2 children in one seat because they're in the same household. That bus might have 23 on it. And transportation remains as it always has. You do not need to opt for AM only or PM only. There is a seat being anticipated for you going in both directions.
Thank you. Jamie Spielman asks, are the EAs that were discussed at last night's BOE meeting critical to run the elementary program safely? If so, how will that happen since it is not approved yet and school starts in 5 days?
Yeah, so I could start with that answer. Yes, you know, when I don't want to speak on behalf of the elementary principals, but I can tell you when they shared what they felt we needed to have our students arrive for arrival, dismissal, lunch, and everything else in between that happens in the school day. You know, the conversations about, you know, yeah, I think it was 6 per building, I believe, something to that fact. That's where we were, and we're continuing to see what else we can do. There is a huge price to that. I mean, clearly, as we saw last night, you know, in order to hire all of those positions, it's close to, actually it is, I think it's like $2 million in order to do so. So these are the conversations that we're still having right now. But I want to be very clear, when our kids do arrive on Tuesday, that we will make sure everyone is safe and socially distant. But these are some of the conversations that, you know, again, as we begin to think of new and different ways to solve problems, that was one way to solve it, but we'll continue to have those conversations.
Okay. So question from Eric Gerwitz. Do we need to complete the questionnaire that was sent yesterday about devices? And will elementary students need to bring at-home devices to school on in-person days until the district devices arrive?
So we just sent out, or I should say Mr. Maloney sent out the distribution plan, and which is really amazing compared to where we were yesterday, as far as getting the devices into the hands of our teachers and in the hands of our students. So when it comes to students bringing their own devices, elementary-wise, I don't think they'll have to, because they will be receiving their Chromebooks before, well, when school starts. So they'll have that.
If I may, sorry, Mike, just to add, I would suggest that the community completing those surveys, simply because not only is that an important metric for now and the future, but also we also ask about internet access at the home. And so both of those measurements are important. And there's other couple pieces of data that are valuable to us, including notifying them of the teacher and student handbook and the other documentation that goes along with the one-to-one.
Thanks, Ryan. And if I may just not backtrack, but to answer that very important question about EAs, you know, we have to consider too, you know, part of the reason why we are starting with the phase-in is because we have half the kids in. And so that allows us to be a little more flexible and to allow more time to plan in real time when it comes to, you know, having our students arrive and leave safely. So that was all part of that plan initially as well. Just wanted to comment a little bit further on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Alberto Rodriguez's question. We need details on what live streaming constitutes. Will it involve smart boards? Will teachers be able to see students? Will there be any possibility of interaction?
So I don't know at this point if everyone's sick of hearing my own voice. Is there anybody who would like to tackle that? I will start, and then I'll turn it over to either Dr. Mioli or somebody else. So there are a couple different edges to that particular question, and I'll start with the last part, which I think is on the parents of, I'm sorry, on the minds of all our parents, which is the interaction piece. I mean, clearly, that is a very critical piece when it comes to, you know, teaching and learning and all those things that happen in between. So here's my answer to that, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Mioli. This is new for everybody. So there is a time where the technology is new. We haven't been in the classroom in a half a year. Students are wearing masks. We're getting used to protocols that are really very new. So the reasonable expectation is we need to get acclimated first. Over time, and it's not a lot of time, but in time, I would say within, you know, a few weeks, there should be, yes, interaction with our kids. But the question becomes, what does that look like? How often does it happen? And those are the things that we will continually focus on as we move forward. I ask our parents, and you have been incredibly patient. And everybody in this community has been very patient with so many things. But when it comes to live streaming, which really is a brand new technology in Port Washington, we need to be patient in the beginning. And like I said before, this will continue to grow and evolve over time. Dr. Miele, I don't know if there's anything else that you would want to add to what I just said.
Well, I'll just pick up from where I left off. You know, again, every student will be, is already rostered into a classroom or a set of classrooms, depending on how many teachers they have. And so there will be interaction through that classroom. In a remote sense, well, look, if the best teaching is live, the best teaching is, you know, kids in front of teachers and that whole richness that you get in the classroom. The next best is to interact, you know, in a screen or some other device, either visually or audio, through audio. And then the third is to have feedback from either asynchronous materials, if you give an assignment and then you give feedback on the assignment, or if you have a lens into the classroom. I think we've all watched, you know, some videos and learned from them without having any interaction with them. It's not the best way to learn, but it's certainly a way to learn. So as Dr. Hines said, you know, this is new technology. We don't even have all of the outboard cameras, you know, onto the computers yet. We haven't used them before. And so I expect that there will be a learning curve. If I were still in the classroom, I would certainly have one. You know, I expect that the pedagogy will mature with the technology and with the use of the technology. And so I think it will start off in a place that's not exactly where we'd want it to be, but I think that it will grow and mature very well.
Okay, we have a high school question. Sherry Putterman Kaplan is asking, with many students starting remotely Tuesday, when will we get schedules with links for students to log in? Dr. Pernick.
I'll be sending an email out tomorrow to all students with information about their Google Classroom. It'll also include information about the letter days, so everybody has another reminder of what days they're supposed to be in school and what days they are to be home. The email will also speak directly to fully remote students as well. The students are automatically populated into their Google Classrooms once their teachers create the classrooms, which has been happening all week long. And so I'll be sending out information by tomorrow afternoon so everyone knows how to log in.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Ashley Lauren asks regarding hand sanitizers. Are the 10 installed in the hallways electric no-touch sanitizing stations? Oh, Julie's sending me questions. I just lost my spot. Sorry. I'll start again. Hand sanitizers. Are the 10 installed in the hallways electric no-touch sanitizing stations? What options are available in each class? Are there any bottles, spray, or foam in each classroom?
So I believe Mr. Restano is here. Are you here, Jim?
Yes, I am.
Would you mind fielding that question? Thank you.
Yeah, again, I'm getting new information as I'm listening to this. But yeah, we have hand sanitizer. The ones in the hallway are not battery operated. They are the regular standard type dispensers. The ones in the classroom right now are teacher supplied. It's supplied to the teachers that we received from the state, no cost. I'm getting other information right now. I'm not sure if any changes for that will be made in the near future.
And students can bring their own, correct?
Correct, but yes, they can. And it's, I believe we're also working on a letter to parents to give the school permission to administer alcohol-based hand sanitizers. I believe the nurses were nurse, excuse me, our head nurse is working on that letter we have to get out.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so hold on, I lost my space. Okay, next question. Brian Goldberg, good afternoon, and thank you for your efforts in these challenging circumstances. Brian, thank you for that. Has regular COVID testing been considered?
So I know this has been a popular, maybe not popular, it's been a question that's been asked often. So has it been considered as far as the school administering the actual COVID test? No. Are there resources out there that maybe we can partner with from a community standpoint to have COVID tests administered? That is a distinct possibility. But I will say SED guidance, DOH guidance does not say anything about the fact that school districts have to do that or even should do that. So I know conversations were taking place in New York City and probably other cities, but at this time, no.
Thank you. Okay, we have another fully virtual learning platform question from Michelle Garpian. Scenario: in one school, same grade, Class A has 6 kids. Choose fully virtual option, but Class B only has 1. Will there be a shift in class assignment?
So again, not to hog all the answering, but I will here. It is extremely important, especially in a fluid situation, at times to be as consistent as possible. And this is a real possibility, by the way. When it comes to the scheduling of kids, you know, the reality is we, in most school districts, don't want to see kids come in and out, in and out, in and out. It's not good for kids. We don't think it's good for certainly the classrooms. And there could be some outliers where some classes may have more than 3 or 4 kids, children or students out in a particular class. But we're trying to be as consistent as we can, and especially when it comes to, we don't want to keep rearranging classrooms and then adding sections and then, you know, subtracting sections. So we are, to the best of our ability, looking to remain as consistent as possible. So that's the answer.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Josh. What is the plan for differentiating instruction, as different students may have experienced very different degrees of regression since March? I fear bored students may fidget more and be less careful.
All right, I'll start this and I'm going to turn it over to some of our other educators here. You know, aside, and it's a really great point as far as regression from an academic standpoint. I'm also concerned about the social emotional health of our kids, and I'm sure others here are as well. I think there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration. The first week of school, the first month of school, it's all about getting reacclimated to this new norm. Kids haven't been in school in a half a year. Teachers haven't been in their classrooms for a half a year. Principals haven't seen kids nor teachers in a half of a year. So that means the first couple of days, yes, we have to focus on instruction and differentiation, but I think just as important, we have to focus on making sure that everybody's okay. Everybody understands the new protocols and procedures. And then we need to find out, of course, where kids are, you know, in relation to reading, writing, mathematics, and everything else. So I'll start with that, and I'll turn it over to some of our esteemed colleagues here who may want to answer the question about differentiation.
I'll go for
Anybody?
elementary. So I'll go for elementary, no worries. So we have to remember that our teachers are teachers, okay? And we've been engaging in conversations. We saw them do it virtually and we saw them do it live, and now they're going to be combining both of them together, correct? The students are going to be coming in and having Chromebooks, and they're going to be just like they did it in any time. They're going to differentiate. They have to come in, see where their students are, like Dr. Hines said, get a baseline, and then take time to they'll be able to do small group instruction. They'll be able to do individual instruction. Are they going to sit and gather their students around there? No, it's going to look different. But of course, differentiation is always part of our curriculum and will continue to be so, and very important in the elementary school. I don't know if another elementary principal wants to chime in, but basically, of course, that's happening. It's just looking different. Everything is happening in elementary school. It's just looking different, and you're going to see it in real time from your students and your teachers.
Could we actually ask the middle school and high school to also give us their perspective on that?
Sure. So I think the way that the middle school plan was designed was that students will be in school purposefully so we can differentiate within the classroom, make connections with the students. And then as we're doing smaller live classroom settings is to keep the kids engaged. And as always, our teachers do differentiate instruction throughout their curriculum in different ways. So to me, it's no different that we're going in a hybrid model.
I actually think this is, it's an incredible challenge. I think teachers are first going to be tasked with having to assess their students to see how much regression has taken place, and then how to go about filling in some gaps, be it via curriculum or through skills. In addition to that, I think this is an opportunity. We're going to have more tools than ever before in order to serve our students. That will make differentiation easier as we can then target different tools for different students based on their needs. So I think there's an opportunity here for teachers to grow and help support students.
Thank you. Okay, it seems we still have some confusion with regards to the time period for the fully virtual learning platform. And a question that is being asked more than once is, why do we have to choose remote after September and have to stick with that for the marking period instead of 1 month, when the first month is not indicative of how the remote option will actually be?
Just want to make sure I understand that question. So the question is really aimed at,
why do we have to, why are we going past the 1 month opt out on the fully virtual platform, when in fact, during the first month, it will not be completely indicative? And I think that really probably goes towards the elementary school, because in the first month, the middle school and high school will be opening the way they will be opening throughout the rest of the year.
Well, I mean, I think the only way for us to answer that right now is it's really dependent upon the committee work that we have in place. I think it underscores the mission that we have to have something that's enhanced compared to what we have now. And so having that month to do it, and then having the parent, listen, the critical factor in all of this is the parents will need to know way ahead of time to make that commitment. I'm going to say if and when there is something that's improved. So that is a critical piece here when we ask our parents to make that decision. So it's not like, we'll say, here's what the new virtual platform will look like a day before they have to make a decision. They will have to know well ahead of time. Now, how much ahead of time? I can't put a timeline on that now, but it'll have to be vetted. It'll have to be explained. They'll have to know exactly what that looks like before they make that commitment. I mean, that's only fair for the parents.
Okay, thank you. And speaking of our fully virtual students, how will those students receive books, calculators, etc.?
I could talk from the middle school. We're in the process of organizing the material. Every teacher is going to make a packet of what needs to be given to students at home, and there will be a schedule for a pickup probably next week.
Same at the high school.
Elementary?
I think every elementary school is doing it differently, but we are going to arrange for a pickup also towards the end of next week.
Okay, thank you. So Michael Lewis says, good afternoon. How are Julie just sent me a question. I lost my space. Hold on, sorry. Good afternoon. How are the students socially distancing if all kids are in class on the 4 to 8 phase-in days, if all elementary students are in attendance without the shield? So I think this just kind of exemplifies the questions that parents have with regards to how we are getting all students in the building. And so if we could just maybe explain how we will be breaking up the students in the phase-in days.
Dr. Miele, do you mind starting with that, and then maybe some of our principals or I can add to that?
No, not at all. We had two choices. We wanted to have half the kids in. So because again, we'll be going over a lot of protocols with them that are new, wearing masks, washing hands, using hand sanitizer, social distancing. So we wanted to have a few days where they're half the kids in. So either we could have had half of a class at a time come in. So if I had a class of 20 kids, I could have 10 come in one day, 10 come in the other day, or we could have half of the school come in, which is what we've chosen, K, 2, and 4, and 1, 3, and 5. And this way, if I'm the teacher, my entire class is in, but we are going to answer your question, we're going to separate them into 2 classrooms. So during the K2, 4 days, when all those students are in, the 1, 3, 5 classrooms are empty. And so I'll be able to split my class in 2. And I will go back and forth with a co-teacher. And I think that has been explained at each of the building levels with the parents, but I don't know if we want to get into that much detail here. But the physical answer to that question is my entire class will be in on the same day, but they'll be in 2 different places. And then obviously after the phase-in, we'll all be in.
Great. I just wanted to add, I think every school, again, is different, but at Guggenheim, the classroom teachers will be emailing out in either an email or a remind message what classroom that your child is assigned to, being that there are going to be 2 classrooms per teacher. So that will come out either later on today or tomorrow.
Thank you. And I imagine everybody else will be sending that information as well. I see head shaking, yes, so that means yes. Okay, Kim Shannon asks, please clarify how you, oh, I did it again. I'm sorry, everybody, I keep losing my spot. Please clarify how you are going to ensure privacy for those kids who are in school while children and likely parents are home watching and possibly recording via live stream. Dr. Pernick, would you like to answer this first?
Happy to. I want to start by saying that, well, we should remind everyone that recording classes is a violation of the code of conduct at Schreiber, and I'm going to guess at every other school in our district. And that remains true whether you're home or in school. So anybody who is recording is at risk of being disciplined for doing just that. I might add, as has happened periodically over the years, some students are tempted to record and then disperse or disseminate recordings via YouTube, and that will always lead to some disciplinary problems. So let's all work together and avoid this at all costs. Secondly, the way that remote students are going to be seen by the teacher, those students will not be seen by other students in the class. The screen that teachers will be using will be facing the front of the room in almost all circumstances, and thereby not available to be seen by the rest of the class. Similarly, students who are home and viewing the class will not see their in-school classmates. And so that will provide some layer of protection in terms of privacy. We do want, I want to stress this, all students to have their cameras on. That is the easiest way. We get asked a lot of questions about interaction between student and teacher. The easiest way is to make sure your camera is on. And we also want all students to be in an appropriate location while they're receiving instruction, which would be a desk or a table. But we would hope that students are not like laying in bed. By the way, I only use that as an example because my 16-year-old daughter thinks that's okay. So it's a scourge. What are you going to do? So those are some of the ways we would protect privacy.
Thank you. Did anybody want to add anything else? Or I can move on to the next question.
It is the same for all the schools, but it's a true partnership with parents and staff. We need to work together, and parents need to iterate the same message we're saying in schools and, support us in that, because it is important that the parents follow and our expectations as well.
if I can add to that as well, I think one of the concerns for educators, not just here, but I would say in any school, is in fact that happening if they're teaching and it's being recorded elsewhere and then shared. So, and that's a justifiable, concern. So I agree with Ms. Javelin. We all have to work together, and Dr. Pernick. It's incredibly important that we abide by these very simple rules of etiquette as we move forward. So not just from a confidentiality standpoint, but just the right thing to do.
Thank you. We have a question from a kindergarten parent, Danielle Kane. Welcome to Port Washington if this is your first child. Should they be bringing their school supplies all in on their first day? Will supplies be brought back and forth or kept in school? And I imagine this would also go towards every elementary student that has to bring in supplies.
So I'll take that, the resident kindergarten expert. So yes, so for the beginning of the school year, we've all told the students and parents and teachers, we're reiterating this. If we're going to have to be in the pilot, co-pilot situation, rooms are going to just have to be shared. So we're urging all students just to bring their backpacks, their devices after they receive them, and their lunch and snacks for the duration of our 2-week phase in. We're still, in elementary land, we're just really looking at the first 2 weeks. So for that new kindergartner, they're just going to come to school the first day with their backpack, their lunch, and their snack. And that day they'll get their iPad, and that's what they're just going to transport back and forth. Once we could all be together safely with the desk shield, then they're going to get their assigned desks and they'll be able to keep their supplies in their desks. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Question from Leslie C. What are the plans for students with IEPs?
I'm not sure if we have, is Dr. Allen, is she here? I can't tell on my screen. No, I don't think so. So the IEPs have to be followed. I mean, I'll begin to answer that. As a parent who has a child with a disability who has an IEP, yeah, that is the expectation, and it's required by law to follow those IEPs. So we will certainly do that for sure. And then services that need to be supported to support the child, they will still take place. But I encourage our parents to speak with the teacher, to speak with the administrator, and if any questions still are unanswered, to contact the PPS office so we can answer any question that you may have.
Dr. Hines, just to add, all students in the TLC and RISE program will be attending school daily, and we will also be obviously meeting their IEP expectations during the school day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some questions regarding desk shields. I'm going to ask two together. Andrew Steinberg says, how likely are the desk shields to be received on time? End of September. Many schools ordered these in the beginning of the summer and will not receive until October. Is this another Chromebook-like issue? Ouch. Steve G says, since a desk shield doesn't separate students on each side, students will be sitting behind the desk shield. Will they be at least 6 feet apart left to right? So if we could just please take from these two questions, explain what these partitions will look like, if we are the delivery expectation and the separation issue.
Great. So before Mr. Rustano answers some of the shipment question, and listen, the Chromebook, that I can't tell you how many of my colleagues were frustrated by the same thing. It is very frustrating, for sure. I just found out another school district sent something out, I think, to the community either this morning or yesterday. So believe me, we are not happy with that outcome. However, I'm very happy about the solution that we found in short order. So it's a testament to not only Mr. Maloney, but the district in trying to make sure every child has what they need. So the desk shields, when it comes to looking at DOH and SCD guidance, we're in full compliance with the way that we are moving forward with all of our elementary kids coming back. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rustano. He had a staff meeting this morning with all of his crew that will be installing these desk shields. I was there for most of the meeting this morning, and I'm really encouraged by the way they have a real plan in place to make that happen. So, Mr. Restano?
Yes. Hello again. The truck driver called me about 15 minutes ago. They're actually going to be sleeping at Daly tonight in the truck. So they are coming tomorrow morning. We are taking delivery of them, and we're going to start dispersing them tomorrow during the course of the day, and they'll start getting installed according to the principal and what order they want, what classrooms they want. This way they can help with the beginning of school.
Mr. Restano, if you wouldn't mind, I know you were talking about how they'll be secured to the desks, because I think there were questions, not to add more questions to the forum, but I think it's an important thing, because I heard, from teachers as far as will they be, can they be moved, so on and so forth. Do you mind just maybe outlining what they'll be secured with?
They're actually secured with double stick tape, and it's a small tab on the bottom of each leg on the left and the right, and it'll be attached to the top of the desk, and the shield takes up a good portion of the desk.
And then the shield itself, what's it made out of?
Polycarbonate.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and since we have don't go away, Mr. Restano, we have some bathroom questions. So, question from bathroom from Ashley Lauren. As a monitor, will be watching to ensure one student at a time. Are they employed to do any type of sanitizing between each student? And a question of why are we not allowing urinals? They may be safer than stall doors and toilet seats. So I guess this is just a question regarding the safety of bathrooms, and if you could just address some of that.
Covering the urinals will create a unsanitary condition because children do different things in bathrooms. That's the one major reason for that. There could be a time where somebody has an emergency and they have to use it. So there are a lot of there's parts to that. And the other part about disinfecting after each child uses the bathroom, I'm not sure if that is going to be feasible, but we are going to be on a rotating basis throughout the buildings constantly on touch, touch areas, high touch, doorknobs, desks, places that we've been, we started with that process in March, and it worked out very well. We're just going to continue that same process, but with a heightened sense of security and awareness, I should say. And I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. There is a question regarding Schreiber lunch from Valerie Makarick. Has any consideration been given to the cafeteria model for lunches?
I'm not sure I understand the question. The cafeteria model?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's what it was written. But if you could then, Dr. Pernick, just explain lunch at Schreiber. What will the process be? Will students be eating in the cafeteria? Will students be allowed to eat outside? Will they be getting delivered in, buying? Can you just help with that process?
Sure. So lunch, students can eat lunch in the following locations at Schreiber High School: the cafeteria, the commons, the auditorium, or the main gym. In fact, all those locations will be open all day for students who have an unscheduled class and need a place to go where they could also do their work. The cafeteria will be serving lunch. It'll be grab and go, both hot and cold will be available. Students are free to go outside, as they always are. As far as the circle, we have also opened the bleachers on Sieber Field, which will be available for students to go and eat lunch as well. We are not allowing food delivery this year, as we are trying to create the safest possible space we can for our entire school community. I hope that helps. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we have a question with regards to from Daniel Connolly at the elementary level, but I actually think this applies everywhere. Will children be able to hear the teacher in class given they will be wearing a mask and face shield, and vice versa? And will kids at home on live stream be able to hear? I'm going to put this together with another question that is regarding masks. And so I think we can just maybe break it up into will you be able to hear with the mask? And then with regards to wearing masks, Ashley Lawrence says, per the last town hall, there will be mask training for students. However, if each student is going to have their own masks, how is there uniform safety controls regarding each mask? So I think question one is, can we be heard with our masks? Question two, with regards to the masks, how will we ensure that all masks being worn by students and staff are a proper mask?
Sorry, I started talking again and I was muted. I think I'd know by now not to do that. Really important questions. And so some of the questions we are receiving and will continue to receive, sometimes the answers aren't in place until it actually happens and we see in real time what this looks like. Now, the masks that we have, and I think many of us have been in places where you're speaking with the mask. I don't anticipate that being a real problem. And my hope is, if it is, we adjust. We have to adjust accordingly. But I fully anticipate the fact that all of our students will be able to hear what the teacher is saying. But again, if that's the case and the child can't, then we'll have to make some, adjustments if that is the case. As far as students or having something that's consistent as far as training students how to wear masks, I would like to think that our parents are showing our kids how to wear masks before they come to school, right? And I mean this as a parent as well. We have to take time, especially for our youngest kids, our 4 and 5-year-olds who are entering kindergarten. I'm assuming a 7 and 8-year-old or a high school student knows how to wear a mask. How to properly do that. That's where we need parent collaboration in order to make that happen. And because of how many people we have working within our schools, we will continue to work with kids who may need some extra assistance in doing so. I don't know if I answered all of those questions, Ms. Bays, but if there's any.
I think the other question that needs to be answered is, what are acceptable masks? I think that's the question that.
Got it. So that was in the frequently asked questions. We have that document on our website. We are strongly discouraging the scarves the gator masks that students wear.
Gaiters and bandanas are discouraged.
Exactly. So, a mask, I have so many masks in my office right now. A mask such as this, the ones that we actually supply, they work very well. And it's, you have to understand too, and I know we know this because we wear so many different types of masks. Some masks make it a little harder to breathe because how dense they are, right? So for our little kids, I think it's really, really important that they have the ability to have a very easy time breathing. And the masks that we provide within our school district, I think that is definitely the case. But we strongly discourage bandanas and gaiters for sure. And, I'm anticipating, all the back to school gear, like I said, in the old days, you have your lunchbox, maybe no more Trapper Keepers, but you have all those school supplies. Now we're including masks and hand sanitizers as part of that.
Could I just jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
Because Dr. Suzanne actually sent me from one of her parents, who is a doctor, a great CDC visual that we have added to the website that indicates that there are masks that are called exhalation masks, also vinyl masks, and surgical masks, which are not recommended. So this is information that's available to the parent, and it's on our website along with all of our other COVID information.
Okay, thank you. So let me ask a question that we're going to go back to the virtual students for a minute. Jennifer Wilson Pines is asking, how will labs be handled for virtual students? And this is a middle school and high school question.
Our science teachers have been researching and doing labs online, and they'll be running some of the same labs that way this year as well. And anything that we could provide to the students at home from an equipment standpoint, we would do that.
From the high school, much the same. Our science teachers were working over the summer to create virtual labs. So they'll be using that. I'm sure creating more as the year goes on to help support the lab requirement set by the state.
Okay, great. Let me ask a cleaning question. Charles Krell says, during the phase-in period, will elementary students be sharing desks? If so, how will they be cleaned and sanitized? So I think as we explained earlier, we're going to be spreading out our elementary students into 2 classrooms per teacher, but going in on alternate different days. What will we be cleaning the desks in between?
You're saying overnight?
Yes.
Yeah, they will be cleaned. If the desk is being used, the room is being used, the room will be totally cleaned.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. Okay, another question regarding lunch. Include buying lunch. Harris Balch says, what will lunch be like? Will students have to bring their own lunch every day, or will there be a buying option? So I know we asked about the high school ordering in, but I think this question refers to basically students who buy lunch at school. So will we still have that option, or do they have to bring lunch? Ms. Callaghan, are you going to answer?
Yeah, so I know Ms. Callahan is going to answer this question. I also know Ms. Callahan wants to talk about free lunch for all students as well, so maybe she can combine the two if that's possible.
Thank you. Exactly. According to Child Nutrition, up until December 31st, any child will be given a free meal with no regard to finances. So every child in the school district is entitled to a free meal, and the teachers will do pre-ordering at the elementary and middle school level, and high school students will do their ordering as usual as they go through the line, but I would imagine the lines will be more busy when all the food is free. The only thing that will not happen the first month of school at the elementary level is that there will be no snacks available, no a la carte cookies and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. So let me bring this question that we were being asked about temperature checks. And I think, Ms. Fennick, if you could possibly discuss a little bit more about the app that we have and the online reporting. But Ashley Lauren is asking, temperature reporting. This is not a new issue. Stores at any type of service takes your temperature before entry. Why is the ability to do this as students either enter the building or the bus? So basically, Ashley's saying, why aren't we not taking every student's temperature before they board the bus or the school? If you could, though, please elaborate on what our reporting procedures will be. And I know we've discussed about an app that we have, and if you could let the community know when they will be getting that information with regards to the app, or to download it and whatnot.
Right. So the reason why we're not taking all the temperatures at the school is that we are encouraging parents to check their child before they enter school. So if they have any of the symptoms, if they have a fever, if they've been around anybody that's been positive, we'd like to know prior to the child actually coming to school. For those students that do come to school without being checked, the parent forgot, whatnot, we will be taking temperature checks for those individuals. The app, which has been, the app will be installed tomorrow. I was told by tomorrow morning we should have it all for the parent app. Well, it should be all ready to go. We will be notifying parents through Connect Ed. If we need to email, we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure all the parents are notified by tomorrow, the end of the day tomorrow, so they are prepared for Tuesday school opening.
And the app is going to be asking more than just temperature, correct? We are going to be at, so because temperature is not the only indicator for COVID, and in fact, there could be other symptoms. So the app is going to be asking other questions as well. Okay.
Right, I'll be asking, are you experiencing any of these symptoms? We don't want to know the symptoms, but we'll have a list of the symptoms. Has your child been around anybody who has tested positive? Has your child traveled to any state that is on the New York State Travel Advisory?
So, and again, that's actually, I'm sorry that I'm interrupting, but that's an important point. I think we've sent out a letter. I think Dr. Hines did at one point, but we need to remind parents that if you've traveled to a quarantine state, you need to make sure that you quarantine for 14 days before you are allowed to go to school.
Emily, can I just jump in?
Sure.
And if anybody's traveled out of the country in a certain, another country that potentially could be on the CDC list as something that we need to be cautious about, we would hope that the parent would contact the school prior to. So the principal and HR and whomever, we can discuss it and see what would be the best, with our attorneys, what the best outcome would be for that child at this time.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question about mask breaks. I love this. Charles Krell says, during the BOE meeting last night, it was very unclear about mask breaks and how they would be handled. There needs to be some sort of guidance on them from the administration. So it appears that we still have confusion on how we will be handling mask breaks. So because I think last night at the BOE meeting, it was the central administrators who discussed, perhaps we can ask each of our grade level principals to kind of give us a breakdown of how they see mask breaks being handled at their school. So if we could start with the elementary, then go middle and high school, how are you handling mask breaks?
I could speak about that. We are advising and we're recommending that our mask breaks are taken outside and that the children are spread apart, and just for a few minutes, maybe up to 10 minutes, they are spread apart, breathing fresh air with no masks on. If the mask breaks were going to take place indoors, it would be for a shortened time and under the guidance and supervision of the adults who are in the room. We all agreed that it would be maybe 5 to 7 minutes, or it could be as quick as just a few minutes adjusting, and it could also be staggered. So some children might have their masks off while others have their masks on, and it could be as lesson continues. But we're scheduling 1 to 2 mask breaks a day, and this should happen regularly. We really have to see the children and make our decisions based on their age and their ability to keep the masks on. So it might look different in kindergarten as far as frequency than it does in a 5th grade classroom.
And that information you're sharing with your staff, correct? So this is information that you have communicated with our teachers on what the process will be.
So we already started out by scheduling mask breaks, and maybe it will look different as we know, but right now we are scheduling them to be outside under the supervision of a paraprofessional.
Thank you. Could we have a middle school, Ms. Javelin?
Sure. Hi. The teachers have been asked to make sure that every period the students have at least 1 mask break, and the teachers will figure out in their classrooms what works for them. Our desks are 6 feet apart, so they may choose to do every other row. So then they're 12 feet apart, but we've actually had them do it and ask the teachers to manage it period by period in their classrooms, and that they would have at least 1 mask break per period.
At the high school, we have asked teachers to provide mask breaks to students when possible. We also want to leave some of this at the discretion of our teachers. We understand that not every teacher is comfortable with mask breaks, and we want to let everybody grow into that a little bit. Like the middle school, our desks are 6 feet apart, and we've asked teachers who will employ mask breaks to stagger them around the classroom so that everybody isn't taking their masks off at one time. I would add one final piece that we've also asked teachers that if a student asks to leave the room for a mask break, that they should allow a student to step outside of the classroom and take that break.
Okay, thank you. I'm just letting everybody know it's 3:12, so we're going to try to answer a couple more questions. And we have received numerous questions regarding the fully virtual learning platform. So before we take the last couple of questions, Dr. Hines, before we end, if you could please just summarize again what the fully virtual learning platform is today and what the progress will be. So there is a question regarding ventilation, and the question regarding ventilation is aside from HEPA filters, how were the ventilation systems within each classroom addressed? Were there updated filters installed? I don't know if Mr. Rosano's on still, but Ms. Callahan, maybe you can answer.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Every univent. I don't know if everybody understands what a univent is. That's the unit ventilator in each classroom. Brings in air from outside, gets filtered, and it goes through the classroom and gets taken out, and that creates air exchanges per hour. The filters that we can fit in our units are in the area of MERV 8. I know there's a lot of talk about MERV 13 and all of that, but our systems do not allow that. And not only do they not allow that, they actually hinder ventilation. So if we were to upgrade, if you want to use the word upgrade, I'm not calling it an upgrade. If we wanted to change our univents to a number 13, we would be actually ventilating the classrooms less. So we chose to keep the correct design filter in the univent. And in addition, Dr. Hines had approved HEPA filters in all classrooms as well. So that will enhance the ventilation of the room.
And the HEPA filters are actually freestanding units, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not instead of, it's in addition to. They will have free. Okay. And also, Mr. Rosano, I believe that we've had engineers walking through the buildings with you to check the ventilation, correct?
Correct. We finished the elementary schools, and tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be doing the high school and the middle school.
Thank you. Okay. So let me go to, someone is asking again about transportation. Scott Johns would like to know, will it be 44 or 22 children per bus? I think maybe Scott joined on later, but Ms. Callahan, am I correct in answering Mr. Johns? I see you're eating, I'm sorry. It will be 22 children per bus is our goal, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Emily's muted.
Oh, good. Now you didn't hear what I said. So there's a question about fully virtual, and then I'm going to probably ask Dr. Hines if he could just do a fully virtual recap. The question is how, oh wait, I lost my spot. Please be patient. Well, forget the fully virtual. Let me ask this question. Traffic flow from Stephen Morales. Have the Port Washington Police Department been asked to develop a traffic flow pattern for arrival dismissal around Sousa and Manor Haven?
So I can answer that. No, they haven't. they haven't been notified, and I think that's a really good suggestion to touch base with them in regard to that, but not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. And the question that I was going to ask that I lost my spot in before was Kim Ilardis asks, could there be an outdoor orientation meeting with teachers for those participating in the fully virtual learning platform so students can meet their teachers and get any materials they need to learn from home?
I think it's an interesting suggestion. I mean, I can't answer that right now in real time. I would have to talk to our staff, but I think, listen, the fact that parents want their children to meet their teachers, even though they be socially distanced, is an interesting suggestion. So we will definitely consider that.
Okay, and I have a question before we get to the fully virtual recap. Someone is asking, as a parent of kids who are entering E&L at SUSA, I would like to know whether my kids have to go to school 4 days in a week or they just go to school 2 days in a week as assigned to their grade. So I don't know if we can just give an overall E&L answer, but I would actually advise this parent to reach out directly to their principal and ask for their specific kids. But is there a general E&L maybe answer a question about how we will be treating those students?
Yes, right now, all of our E&L students are going to be following the grade level. They will be in one day, out one day. That's going to give them the opportunity to be in class with live instruction and practicing the remote model on the day that they're home. So no difference for E&L students at this time.
Okay, but again, anybody who has questions, so there were questions that were asked that were specific to a particular student, not a particular student, but a particular building. And so I would just ask, if we didn't get to discuss your questions right now, please make sure that you reach out to your building principals, or even so directly to your teacher that you've all kind of been giving your assignments to your teachers. They will be more than, I believe, helpful to answer all your questions. So the question that I think, Dr. Hines, if we can, because I think, again, and in all fairness, we really just discussed the fully virtual last night at the board meeting about, and so there's questions about, will there be interaction? Will there be the ability to opt in and out? You know, the filling out of the survey, recap again when that is done. Will they be getting their supplies? How will they be getting their supplies? I think this is a question that keeps coming over and over again. If you can please recap that. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. So before I recap, let me just talk about how many students we're talking about. And I spoke about this last night, and I'll have more updated numbers by 4 o'clock today. In total, right now, we're looking at close to 480 students K through 12. We have in grade levels, when I say as low, I'll say from the starting point, 25 students in the specific grade level in 4th grade right now, all the way up to 51 in 5th grade. We have most of our students at the elementary level for sure. When we're talking about some other things related to what this looks like, listen, the reality is we're talking about live streaming for this particular program. That is the mechanism right now, coupled with Google Meets or Zoom at Weber in the way they designed it. And there's a big difference, by the way, between live streaming and meeting a class via Zoom or Google Meet. And that's the interaction piece, Emily, that you brought up before. And it seems to be one of the major concerns for our parents is the frequency of interactions between a teacher and student. And as I said earlier, because I think what parents want to know is, or most people want to know is, how do you quantify that? Like, what is the actual number of times or the expectations? And as I said before, September in many ways is a transition time. And I believe it's the optimal time for us to see how it's working when it comes to the beginning of this program next week. And then we talk about teachers becoming comfortable with the technology and the equipment that's there and the new way of educating students. And over time, over the month of September, they become more comfortable with interactions, whether it's live interactions or whether it's, as Dr. Mioli said, through Google Classroom or anything else. So these are things that we, as committee members over the month of September, we will continue to engage and talk about and make that a priority. The other priority has to do with, and I'll speak for the elementary level, how do we create something more than just a linear experience of a child sitting in front of a screen? That will continue to be the charge of the elementary committee. And from a fiscal and a budgetary standpoint, how do we do that potentially with the resources that we have? What does that look like? If we do need to expand it, and we've looked at this in every direction, if there needs to be an increase in costs, how much would that be? And we need to talk about that as a board in real time to make those decisions. And so there's a lot of conversations that will take place. And I want our parents to know that this is a major priority for us. The major priority right now is opening safely, right, for all of our students. And on top of that, as far as a priority, is how do we make what we currently have in place better? How do we assess what we have often? And what metrics will we use to see if it's successful or not? When it comes to parents opting in and out, the month of September, there's a lot of freedom to do that. What we are asking, once we have something that we are very comfortable with, that we will move past September, we will be asking parents to lock in. And when I say lock in, not sliding back and forth between being in school and out of school. And that will take place post-September up until the first marking period. So I want to be clear about that. As far as supplies and everything like that for students, the teachers and the principals will be reaching out to the parents. And this is, as Dr. Mioli said before, if there's one positive about what we have every single student attached to a teacher. That is incredibly important, that we have that mechanism in place. So that is the conduit that brings all of our kids together at this moment in the month of September. I don't know if I missed anything else, Ms. Bays.
No, I think you did. I think you got something, but everything. But what I was going to ask, because I know that this is a question that we've received, and it is something that helps me in trying to visualize, because I am a visual person, about what will a day look like. And so if you would allow me, I'd like to do a day in the life of a student in each of the grades, so that, not each of the grades, each of the levels, so that maybe people can understand why we're saying that the month of September is going to be different than going forward, and asking for the community's patience in figuring out a plan going forward past September. So if I could just do that, I think maybe it'll give some sort of, if I can open my document, that is. Okay, so for instance, I wanted to do a day in the life of an elementary student. So if you have a third grader, and that third grader is assigned to Mrs. or Mr. X's class, third graders right now are attending school in person for the month of September, specifically on the 9th, the 11th, the 15th, and the 17th. So on Tuesday, September 8th, that third grader that is a fully virtual student will follow the remote plan along with every other third grader in their class. So that could be a combination of synchronous or asynchronous learning, which could be a Google Meet, a Google Classroom, etc. On the days that third graders are in school, again, the 9th, the 11th, the 15th, and the 17th, your fully virtual learning student will log in and live stream and follow along with their class. So that's what September would look like for a third grader. then let's go to a sixth grader. So now a sixth grader is assigned to the Red House. The sixth grade Red House students are attending school in person on Mondays and Thursdays. They are learning remotely on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So on Tuesday, September 8th, the sixth grade Red House fully virtual student will follow the remote day schedule along with all the other sixth grade Red House students. The instruction provided that day will be live instruction with their teachers via Google Meet or Zoom. And on the days that the sixth grade Red House students are in school, Mondays and Thursdays, the sixth grade Red House virtual student will log in and live stream and follow along with their classes. Now you're in the high school. Now you're a 10th grader, and let's say you're assigned to the blue team. The blue team students are going to be attending school in person on the A, C, and E days, and they're going to be learning remotely on the B, D, and F days. So on Tuesday, September 8th, the A day, the 10th grader blue team, fully virtual student, will log in to the live stream and follow along with their class. On the days that the 10th grader and the blue team are remote, that student will follow the remote day schedule. So I know that that must confuse everybody that's on this Google Meet, and we understand, but I wanted to just give a perspective that for the month of September, it is going to look a little different for everybody. And that's why we're asking that we wait for the month to be over while the committees continue to meet, and we can try to come up with perhaps different plans. Does that make sense? I hope I helped. I hope I didn't confuse anybody.
No, I thought you summarized it very well, and better than most. I think the key feature at all three levels is how do we keep students and teachers connected? And what does that interaction look like? And how do we keep everybody on the same page?
I want to also point out it's 3:29, and anybody who's been at a meeting with me knows how I'm a stickler for time. So we are almost at the end. I want to thank everybody who has participated today. I want to thank the entire community for being patient with us. I know you're sick and tired of hearing the word patient, but truly we thank you for being patient. I want to thank all the administrators for being here. I want to thank all our teachers for all the efforts that they have been putting in. We had over 200 questions asked during this particular forum. I don't know that I'm pretty sure we didn't get to all 200 of them, but we did our best to try to summarize as many of the hot topics, and we continue to ask for your patience. We will be doing more forums, and that is our goal, to try to get as much of the community involved and have all your questions answered. So please don't come again at 7 p.m. because we want to reserve the 7 p.m. time for people that have not had the opportunity to ask questions. But of course, follow along. We love our viewers. So 3:30 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining us.